Hello guys and welcome. So today I was working on my game and I've been working on this for 2 days now, and I had an idea. I thought, why not make a devlog instead, and I will start from the beginning. So we will make a game together, and I do plan on finishing this game. And on the plus side, all the assets I use here are actually free, so you guys can also download them and follow along if you like. And I do also plan on ultimately releasing this game on Steam or something. So yeah, let's I'll just give you guys an example of some of the things that we will be working on. This is of course only 2 days work, so there's not much going on right now, but I'll just get started and show you. So I'll just click play and new game. So of course we have our smaller intro here. Right now I don't have the controls. Once the intro is finished, you will see the change in the screen, and now I have the controls. And now I have these things to keep track of everything, so my issues and stuff, because I work alone, so I can't really, there's no point logging out, so I just log everything in game. So simple movement, AD to jump, and then AD left right jump, and just F to interact. So of course this is 2D, so all the sprites I'm using here are actually 2D, and then down here I'm using a simple blueprint to get that ground mesh to move from left to right. Sorry, ground sprite. And if I'm not close by for more than 25 seconds, then that stops moving. So it's, it's not calculating anymore. And we have this thing here. If I fall down here, we have a checkpoint right here. So whenever I fall down here, there's a collision box down there, which in response spawns me at this thing right here. And then down here, if I show you, this is kind of work in progress. I was still working on it. So down here is it's a tree with collision enabled, so you can't get through. So the clue to that is you go up here and you move up to the chest, you press F, the chest opens and drops an axe. You take the axe and you chop down the tree, but of course this is work in progress, so it's not been completed yet. So this is just to show, just to give you guys an example of the type of stuff you guys can actually achieve, or that I will be covering in my tutorials. There'll be a lot more, but and then we have this another thing here. So we go up here. Now of course there is one game mechanic that you guys will have seen in many 2D side-scroller games, which is right here. So I have a simple box here with physics enabled. And I've personally seen this in many games where you have to push an object or pull an object just so you can jump on it, and you can go up as well. So this is it, guys. This is the basic example of something that I will be working on. So now we will get started with a brand new project, and you guys can go ahead and download any of the assets. I'll leave the links in the description. So once you guys are ready, just I'll see you guys in the next bit. Alright, so here we are. I'm inside my Unreal Engine. I have 3 versions. For this I'll be using 4.14.3. So I'm just gonna click launch on this, and I'll just wait a while. So just click launch, and then I'll be using the template for the 2D side scroller. Alright, so just going to new project, 2D side scroller. Now we don't need the starter content for this, because we just don't need it really. And you guys can name this whatever you want. I'll just call this project, or actually I'll call this Devlog 2D. You guys can call it whatever you like. No starter content, maximum call the desktop console. Everything's fine. Then just go ahead and create project. Alright, so we have our basic project here, the template. If you just click play, you guys can only move around, do a lot of cool stuff. And So now what we will be doing is getting all our assets ready. So we will be making sprites, editing sprites, doing the collisions. Collisions are really important in this. If I go on perspective or lit, I can show you player collision. You guys can see that although this is a 2D game, all of these things still have a 3D collision. So you guys can add like boxes, manual boxes, or actually do a collision vertice by vertice. So we will be covering all of these things. So let's get started. Alright, so I am using these Island Adventure Lite, which is obviously free to download as well. So I'll just open this, and I will be using the assets from in here. So I'll just quickly show you guys how you guys can migrate these assets to your project. So once it's opened, you go to the content browser. I'm gonna bring this on the screen so you guys can see it. Inside the sprites, now we only want the sprites. So I'm just gonna select all these sprites. Right click and so asset actions and migrate. So I only want these things to be migrated. I don't want all the extra stuff to go down to my project, like the blueprints and stuff, because that could really mess around with your pre-existing ones. I'm gonna press OK. Down here, now all of my projects are normally inside my documents, Unreal projects, and the game I just made, I called it Devlog 2D. So click on this and make sure you have content selected, otherwise it will not work very nicely. And then you press OK. Alright, and now if you go back to your original project, you go to the content browser, and there you go. So inside Island we have all the sprites, and anything that's actually linked to these, for example the material or the textures, have come with them. So now of course for my game I want all my sprites to be black. I don't want any colors, I don't want any fancy stuff. So for this I'll go to the material. This is the main material that's affecting all of those assets. Now of course because this game is 2D game, is unlit, there's no sun, there's no sky, nothing. So everything is unlit, and it uses emissive color. So all I will do is to make it go to black is just take off this bar right here from emissive. You guys can keep it on if you guys do want colors, but that's the key for you. If you guys want colors in this, make sure you use the emissive colors, as everything is pretty much unlit. And if you want light affecting your world, then you need to turn everything to lit, and also add lights and stuff, skylights, directional light or anything. Now if I go down to my sprites and I drag something out, it has this black color instantly, which is exactly what I want. Alright, so now we have our basic assets. I think I'll go and make a new folder. I'll call this foliage. So I do have a few more textures that I have actually downloaded from the open clip art and stuff. So for this I'll just bring in this plant pack, open. Now Unreal Engine has this really cool feature. So if you have a texture with lots of sorry, let me just close the Island Adventure pack. So if you do have an asset with lots of pictures, it's a PNG file, so the background is actually transparent. So Unreal Engine has a cool feature. You go to the texture, right click on it, sprite actions. Either you can create a sprite, so just one, or you can click on extract sprites, and it will automatically determine how big each of the images are, like based on the alpha background, so the transparent background. You click extract, and this is pretty awesome. I really love this, how this works really nicely. Now if you just look, you have all these assets, just from that, like really quickly. Now of course the collisions haven't been done properly yet. Now most likely in your plants you don't want any collision anyway, because they're more there for the scene than for the collision. So once you've done this, then I'll make a new folder. Now I also want to bring in my character, which is indeed a teddy bear, which is Megs. I also got this from that site, I believe, Open Game Art. So someone uploaded this in like 2010. So what I'll do for this is I'll just select all of these. So these are all the different, basically you can call them animations, textures, and I'll just bring all of these in here. And now we will select all of these, right click, and sprite actions, create sprite. Now you have a sprite for each of them, which you can of course drag out into your world and it should work, but this is of course not what we want. Now I'm just gonna find this material as well. So I believe this is the default material that comes with the package, and I'm also just going to find the parent material to this, which I am also going to make black because I don't want any colors whatsoever in my game except the background. Okay, now once I've done this, if I go back to my content, yeah, so my content, and now if I go to my character and if I drag him out now, well, of course everything's gone black, so you can't really see anything, but so I'm just going to turn this to unlit. I'm just going to delete all of these things as well. Or what I can do is I can just select them here, so control click, all the ledges and everything. I will not be using any of these, so I'm just going to click delete. Now inside my content, I'll make a new folder. I'll call this background. So this step is just to get our assets ready for the game, and then we can just get with putting stuff in and getting things done. So now inside my 2D assets, I believe I should have a floor somewhere, so just a simple floor. If I go back to Devlog, assets, ambient building, yeah, so this is a simple plane. I'm just gonna import this plane in. So this will be my background. It's literally just a square. It's just a square that I made inside Blender, and I have exported it to Unreal Engine. It only has 4 vertices and 2 triangles. To show you guys UV, this is it. This is all there is to this plane, just a square. And once I have imported this, I'll close these because I don't need these anymore. I'll make a new material here, m_background. So I was actually listening to this really nice soundtrack, and I got this idea for the game because I really liked how it looked. So what I'll do is I'll make 2 vector parameters by pressing V twice. I'll press L and make a loop right here. Connect the first one here, second one here, and I'll type FRES, so for now, and attach that into the alpha. I'll press S and add a scalar parameter to the roughness. I'll select this and call this roughness, if my computer allows me to do that. Yep, there we go. And then I'll add another scalar parameter here, and I'll connect this to the expo, and I'll call this expo. So expo. I'll just call the colors 1 and 2, so just that's the first color and that's the second color. And I'll save this. Oops, I forgot to connect the lerp, which should go into the emissive color because our scene is mostly unlit. Okay, once we've done this, I'm gonna open my mesh up again. Just gonna go to my mesh. Now, normally I use 2 screens, but I'm trying to keep everything on 1 screen. Okay, so once we've done this, now we can see this down here. I'm going to actually, make a material instance first. I'm going to drag the material instance onto the mesh. It's actually a lot harder than you think to actually record at the same time as you are working, because I'm not used to, all my videos are normally planned, but this isn't very planned. So for the first color, I'm going to choose a reddish orange. Second color, I'm going to choose a slightly lighter orange. Alright, in the expo for the Fresnel, I'm going to turn the value up, and you guys can instantly see what type of an effect this has. Okay, save this. So this will serve as my background. I'm just going to make it really long. It doesn't matter how long you make it, because it's not going to tile at all. So that's a lovely thing about having these materials. Alright, so once you've done this, I'll close this. We have our background ready. And next thing we will look at is I'll actually set up my global post-process volume settings. So let's get started with that. I'll just save quickly. Alright, so in just that much time, I just experienced an Unreal crash, but I have recovered and I'm back to where we left off. So of course, you guys might still have this template thing, this writing. If you might just want to get rid of that as well. Now if I click on our global post-process settings, go to details, settings. Now there's a really cool effect that I really like to have in my game, which is, I believe, if I go to scene color, so this thing right here, I don't even know how to pronounce that, don't even ask me. Just gonna turn this up to max, which kind of gives you this cool effect with the sides go darker. So I don't know if you guys have played a game like Limbo, you guys will have seen these effects, but in Limbo, instead of just having a constant one, it actually kind of shows you like blinking effect, like just on the side. So it's like a really old film effect. And other than that, I don't think there's much that we really need to mess around with at the moment. But post-processing, you guys can change settings based on how you want to look. Of course, one more thing I might do is I'm just going to turn my contrast up a bit. I want my game to really look like that. So about 0.3 contrast and that setting right there. Everything else we can leave to defaults. Alright, and now we will move on to editing our character and replacing this with our teddy bear. So first thing we'll do is we'll go to our content and we'll start from here. Right, so inside our content browser, we'll go to our character. Of course, we've already made all these sprites, but if you guys are using the same teddy bear, there are a few more. So inside the main file that you download, there's a source, and inside here you have a few more. If I double click this, and here you can see we have a few more of these. So whoever's made this has spent a lot of lovely time on this, and it's quite cute actually. Which is why I want to work on this game as well and use this teddy bear, because I think it'll give the game a really nice feel. Anyways, we'll go back to our content browser, and first we will do is we'll make our first animation. So go to animation, paper flipbook, which is what we use for sprites, and this I will call idle. Now for my idle animation, I'm gonna drag this down, make this smaller. So just about the size of this. Of course, it's the having to manage on one screen because I'm not used to anymore. Alright, so once I've done this, actually what I might need to do is make this smaller as well, so the other ones doesn't disappear. Yeah, so okay, so for my idle animation, first thing I'll grab is the static sprite. Static, and I'm gonna zoom out here because it's too big obviously. Static is just, he's just standing still, and I'll turn this down to about 5. So the frames are slower, I guess. This moves through a lot slower. And I want my... So when he's standing still, I want him to perform some type of an action as well. So first action I'll do is this, right here. So after standing still for some time, for the static, I have 2 elements right now. If I click on keyframes for the 0, I want this frame to last like 5. So about 5 of these. And after this he plays this animation, and then I will add the static sprite once again, which will play for about another 5, and then he will do a small hit punch just to add some life to our teddy bear, so you know it's not just standing there still all the time. So when the player leaves him idle. So now our idle animation is finished. There we go. Yep. Okay, so once we've done our idle animation, we'll go back to the content browser, we'll go to animation, paper flipbook, and now we'll make our walk, or just call it run, I guess. Alright, so now in the run, we will open this again, make this slightly smaller, and okay, here we go. So for run, we pretty much have 2. We have the walk one, which... Actually what I'll do is I'll actually start with static. I'll add walk 1, I'll add static again, and I'll add a walk 2. I'll zoom out. So now it looks a bit more... Obviously if we had a lot more frames in the middle, it would look a lot more smoother than just this. But this isn't bad, maybe turn this down to 8. You guys can change these frames based on your character speed, which we'll be editing in a while. I think 5 works for me. Save this. We have our run animation ready now as well. And the next thing we will do is there any other animations? I think for now we'll just stick to idle and run animations. So now we will edit our main character to add these there, and so we can use these animations instead of having this kind of like a dummy character. So let's get started with changing our character blueprint. something that we might want to look at, which might be very important actually. This, which is, we'll open our sprites. So first of all, we will open our static sprite. Now there's something that I'll show you guys. Is right now the collision is a box. So now if you walk on a surface and you collide into something, this box will react to it, not your character. So we will be changing this. So there's a few things you guys can do here. So inside our collision, we have right now using a 3D physics, which is fine, and we have a tight bounding box. We can try shrink wrapped, which makes it slightly better, but not to my liking. So I'll change this back to the tight bounding box. I'll change the collision thickness to about 50, because obviously we want the radius to be quite big, because it's really hard to get everything, you know, really close together. Anyway, so how we can add extra vertices to match the character is, first of all, we can select these middle ones. It's kind of like Blender or like a modeling software. Kind of gives you that feel here. I'm just gonna make these edges go in, so just about here. All right, and now we can hold shift and left click to add another vertex right here. Alright, so I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to add a vertex here, and we can follow along our character. So this will give us like really nice looking, nice collisions. You guys can go you guys can be as careful with this as you want, but obviously I will spend some time on this, but I might skip the video here and do all the collisions, since I've shown you guys how they're done basically. So I might just... yeah, so I'll just skip the video here, or I'll speed up the video, and I'll be back once I've done all these animations. Alright, so now we can head over to our content, to the side scroller BP, inside our character, to the side scroller character. So this is our basic handling animation and everything going on here. And down here, so first of all, of course, don't want to confuse you guys too much. If you guys are new, just stick with me and we'll get through this. If you guys know what you're doing, then probably don't tell you too much. But okay, so here we go. So in our handle animation, update animation in our branch. So for false, it has the character idle animation. I'll change this to our idle, which we just made for the teddy, and for the true running animation we'll change this to run, and in the sprite we'll change this to our idle from the idle animation of the character. And I don't think there's anything else we need to change in here right now. We can go more advanced with this, but we'll get to that later. Alright, so once we've done this, now instead of having the character, we instantly have a teddy bear right here. I can't click play right now because we don't have any collision set up. We don't have any meshes out there, so our character will fall straight down. So this is it, guys. This is basically setting up our character. Also, one more thing, if we go back into our 2D character, we can control our character speed and our character movement. So here's a mass acceleration. There's a walk speed. I'm going to change this to 300. I want the character to walk quite slow. And there should be a jump velocity. This can stay up to 1000, that's fine. But this is where you will find all your character settings, which will affect your character. Okay, once I've done this, I'll compile this, save. Of course, make sure you save quite a bit, because crashes can be quite common. At least they are for me in Unreal Engine. I'm not sure if they are for everyone else. Alright, so here's our character, here's our background. So now we'll move on to actually adding meshes in here. But before we do get to that, just to warn you guys, you have to make sure that the collisions are done properly on this. For example, if I open this this kind of bridge here, you can see, although it does have a collision, when I go to edit collision, it's just a box. So it's obviously a really bad collision for this this type of an object. So what I'll do is I'll click this down. Now yeah, so I'll do a collision about like this, which works pretty good for this, I would say. Right. Yeah, so a collision like this. Now if I, of course, also change the collision thickness, I'll change the one from meshes up to 100, because we don't want the character falling off at all. Now you can drag this out into the scene. Of course, you might have to adjust it to align with your character. If you're not sure what the collision is like, you guys can go into this type of collision, and now you can see it looks pretty good. So now if I click play, our character can kind of move around on this. But there is still one more thing that we need to edit inside our as you guys can see, the character is not actually touching the bridge. So inside our character blueprint, if I go back to lit, we can actually open our blueprint by selecting the character. Open blueprint. We go to our blueprint inside the viewport, as you guys can see. So our collision for the character is starting from down here, not from where our character is. So what I'll do for this is I'll lock this, the scale axis. I'll put this up to 3, which makes my character fit in nicely, very nicely, with the mesh. Or maybe I might do 3.2. Yeah, now our character is fitting perfectly inside our capsule component, which if we change this, our character size will change. So I'll change this down to about 0.5, maybe 0.4 or 0.3. Now if I compile and now if I play, our character actually lands on the, like, it has nice looking collision. But of course this is too small now, so I'll go back. I think I should keep my capsule to about maybe 0.8. Compile, save. Remember to save, guys, it's really important, you don't lose your work again and again. Now if I click play, there we go. We have our character working already. Okay, so now we will set our first functionality, which will be a ground mesh moving from here to here as soon as our character comes close. So let's get on with it. Alright then, so for our first mechanic, what we'll do is we'll find a nice looking ledge, maybe. Not, yeah, something like a road ledge, whatever you guys can find. I'm still using the Island Adventure Light, the content, so if I can, maybe this one would do. Yeah, this one. So I'm just using the light A. Of course, collision needs to be done on this, so edit collision. It doesn't have any collision, in fact, so go to sprite collision domain, use 3D physics. I'll do shrink wrapped, maybe. Now I'll just do tight bounding box, change this to 100. I'll bring this down a bit, I'll take this up a bit, bring the side in, this in. This could work slightly, but I just want to have slightly smoother. Now, of course, you guys might want to just keep the collision slightly below the actual surface, so it gives you the cool effect as if the character is actually walking behind these kind of bushy looking things than actually on them. So if I save this now, and I need to bring this to the same level as here, right? Once again, you can go to play collision, make sure collision is done nicely. Now if we click play, you should be able to jump on it. Yeah, there you go. Now we want our ledge. I'll just make this go away, so minimize my content browser. Now we want our ledge to move left to right, kind of like you've seen in most games, right? So I'll move this up at the same level. For this, I'll go to cinematics, add matinee. That's my preferred way of doing this. I use matinee a lot. You can do this in blueprints as well, but we'll make a matinee for this, and we will edit that inside our blueprint. So now inside our matinee, we'll select our mesh first. So make sure your mesh is selected, the ground mesh. Inside here, right click, add new empty group. I'll call this ground. This has obviously changed the mesh to movable, so now it can move around. So I'll call this ground movement, maybe. Alright, then right click on this and add new movement track. Now if you select our track 1, this represents 0 seconds, so at 0 seconds our mesh is here. Now we'll go up to maybe 250. When I press enter, now if I drag this, so now at 250 seconds our mesh will move from this point, so point A to point B. I'll make this go about up to here, yeah. And then at 5 seconds, so if I go back to, so if I go up to 5, so if I drag this bar up to 5 and press enter, so at 5 seconds we want our mesh back at the same spot that we started. Alright, so now if I click stop on this, on the inside the matinee, if I click loop, there we go. We have the simple ledge moving left to right. Now we need to set this up inside our blueprint. So we need to tell our blueprint that this is what we want this to do. So now, of course, our matinee has to be closed before you can edit stuff and access stuff. Once you've done your matinee, you can close that. You can close this collision box. We'll go to lit. This is our matinee reference that we need. Now I'm gonna rename this. So click this right here. I'll call this ground movement, just so we know what this is. And this thing, so I'll select this. I'll call this ledge actually, or m_ground, so I know this is movement and this is movement for the ground. Now I'll select this and I'll control click on the ground movement matinee. Click this to make a new folder. I'll call this ground movement. We want to keep things organized, alright? So you can close any extra folders that we don't want. So it's a lot easier than to access stuff here. When you have a big scene, this will be really useful. Now we will select our matinee. We'll go to blueprints, open level blueprints. Right click here, just type play. If you have your matinee selected, you should go to cinematic, play, and this should play our matinee. Now what we want to do is we want to go into our modes. I'll make this go down. In volumes, so the last option right here, trigger volume, will bring out a trigger volume. Alright, which has obviously not been placed in the right place, so I'll just drag this down to the appropriate place. So when our character arrives in this trigger volume, I'll make this quite big, so, or actually I'll just have just one. So when our character is present somewhere within this trigger volume, make this even bigger in fact. I think I need to make it too big on the y-axis, just the x mainly. Alright, so once our character comes here, we'll select, make sure your trigger box is selected. Actually, I'll name this first as well so I don't forget later on. So this is t_movement. Alright, and I'll move this up to, so this is the trigger for the ground movement. And then with this selected, we'll right click, we'll do on overlap. So add on actor begin overlap and on end overlap. And then on end overlap. So on overlap, we want to play this matinee. And here we'll type set looping state. So we want our matinee to loop so long as the character is overlapping this, and we'll check this to true. So when the character is in there, our movement matinee, so left right keeps playing, and on end overlap delay. So we wait about, now normally I do 25 seconds, you guys we'll do 5 seconds now, so I can show you guys what this will do. We want to do stop. So if I go back, if I select my matinee again, ground movement, and type stop here, stop. Okay, so after 5 seconds, when our character is no longer when our character has stopped overlapping the item or the bar right there, of course we need a target for this, so the target for the looping is the ground movement matinee as well. Or in fact we could have just one and plug this into 3 places, right? Now if you compile this, and one more thing is really important, select all of these, press C, and name them. Just name them what they are, because in your level blueprint you could have so many things that you could easily be lost and confused. So just name them. I'll call this ground movement, which is probably not the best name, but compile this. Now if we click play, just need to go inside our thing, and here we go. The mesh starts to move and it keeps playing, or which it should, but it isn't right now. So let me see what's going on here. Of course it might be the 5-second timer thing. Alright, so let's just change this up to 25 seconds, looping, on end overlap, when it's ended, compile, let's just play. I'll actually simulate so I can move my character around and see what effect this has. So just select my character somehow. There we go. Okay, so when the character gets inside the box, starts to move, let's take our character away, let's see if it stops. It should take quite a long time though. Yeah, but the basic is working. If you want to make some changes to it later on, we can. Yeah, so now so right now it's just stopping after 25 seconds, so you have to go in and out again and again to get this to start playing. But this is not what we want. So we will make some changes to this to get it to keep working so long as we are inside the thing. And let's see what the error is. So message log. Alright. Alright, let's see. I believe... Okay, that's it. I was using the wrong looping. So let's set looping state. So new looping. And if we do this, now even if you change this down to maybe, you know, 1 second. Let's compile. Let's simulate again. Now when our character... Which again, my character is behind the mesh. I'll move this in the front so I can easily select it. So now when our character goes in, it starts to move. Yep. So then as soon as we leave, it stops. As soon as we hit it, it keeps moving. And this is exactly what we wanted. So as soon as we leave, it stops moving. As soon as the character comes into the scene, it starts to move. Now I'll change this timer up to maybe 10 seconds, because we don't want it to stop while the character can still see the place. Alright, now let's add our next mesh down here, which might just be a ground mesh. So for this I'll just choose something that looks like a ground. Yep, this would do. So around about where the so if I simulate this, I still can't select my character. This is the worst. Alright, let's simulate. Let's see how far this goes. So about the end of this. Alright, so let's move this around here. And we need to set up the collision for this, of course. So for the collision, edit collision about here, and then shift click, shift click, shift click. Yep, here we go. That's the basic collision done. I'll drag this in to give it a nice shape. Alright, and the thickness to 100 again. Now if we just click play. Sorry, I forgot to minimize this. So if we click play, as soon as the character arrives, I believe, yeah, it starts to move. You can also set up, instead of using the overlaps, you guys can set up a hit and it should work. So there we go, our first game mechanic is ready. One more thing we need to do is we need to make sure our collision box actually also kinda hits both of these. So whichever side the character comes in from, it should start working. And I'll, with my thing selected, I'll go to blueprint again. I'll try on hit. So on hit, on actor hit, we want this to play as well. So let's see if it makes any difference. Now let's play. It seems to come from the outside in. Alright. Now if you jump on this, so when we're on the other side, it still keeps playing for 10 seconds, which is quite useful. Let's see when it stops. Yeah, I believe it stopped now, so if we go into the box, it starts to play again. Yeah, so we have our first game mechanic working. Congratulations guys if you have come this far. Alright, so for our second mechanic, I have made my mind up, so I'm just gonna drag this forwards. Make this longer. Perhaps it'll look a little different. Yeah. So yeah, should do. Yeah, so for the next mechanic, what we'll do is, we'll add a... So I'll go to my content browser. I'll go to content and... don't know which... I'll just do it in these sprites, yeah, why not? So just here, I'll go to import, go to my 2D assets. I just have a crate. You guys can literally just find a square image and you guys can do the same thing. Anything that's square would do. Alright, so right click, create sprite, sprite actions, create sprite. And for this, what I'll do is, I'll double click and open this. Side here, of course, change the collision to 100. Should do fine. Tight. No, this you want to add the collision. It's fine. It's just a square. Right, minimize. Take this into our scene right here. Of course, make sure it's actually in the right place, not, you know, all the way back there. And I'll make the size about 0.6 maybe. Now 0.4, yep. Alright, so, and what we'll do for this is, we'll enable physics. So simulate physics. Now if you click simulate, you will see some issues right now. First issue is it goes straight down and doesn't actually collide, which is not very. Let's see the collision. So let play collision. Yeah, you can see why it's falling down, because it's not actually on top. Now if you simulate, yeah, we have some physics. But however, we want one thing now, because it's a 2D game. We don't want it falling down from the sides. Now I have already worked this out, so what I'll do for this is, I believe somewhere around here we should have some options where so we can decide which side this actually falls on. So yeah, so the constraints, I believe. Yeah, that's it. Alright, so lock position. We lock rotation on, we only want it to fall X, so if we play this now, it falls straight down. Alright, and we can give it some weight, mass, 100 kg is, and if it's kg, yeah, 100 kg is fine, gravity is enabled, it can rotate on these 3 axes, yeah, that's fine. Now if we click play with our character in, of course we need to start from back here. So this is the next mechanic for our game, which is, you guys must have seen it in, well, my bad. You know what, I'm just gonna drag my character. I'm not gonna bother with, you know, running all the way there. Alright, let's drag my character, click play, and here we have the box. Now we can literally jump on the box. Oh, sorry, forgot to turn that on. So can character jump is the... Can character step up on? I'm not sure what this issue is, but let's go back to the player collision. Let's make this go down. Let's bring our character, which is 2D character, forwards. And here's the issue. There we go. We need to move the character in the middle of the platform. Now if we click play here, character can jump and react with the box. Our character can actually push the box. Now this mechanic I have seen in so many games. Alright, so now we need to have a purpose for this box here. And the purpose will be to climb on top of something. We'll bring in a new sprite. And a new sprite could be like this stone thingy. Alright, so we move this around here. Of course we need to open this, so just double click on this icon right here. I should open it for you anyway. We go to the... We can check the collision, has no collision, so 3D physics, tight box. Make this go down about here. This go down about here. I'm not gonna do too much with these collisions. If you guys want really smooth collisions, you guys can mess around a lot more, but I'm just gonna edit this box, just drag around these things. I mean, as long as our character can walk on it, I'm happy with it. So 100, fully custom, save. Might as well leave on player collision, because of course I need to make sure it's actually touching the thing. Now if you click play, if we come here first, of course we can't jump because it's way too high for our character. So the player needs to go back, move this box around, jump on top, and there we go. Then we can go up. How lovely is that? And one more thing before I continue. I don't like this because it's not straight. It's really giving me the weird feeling. Alright, so we've done this and now we'll... Alright guys, so mechanic 3 comes in play now, and that mechanic is we will... I'm just gonna make a copy of this. Actually not a copy, sorry. Just go to modes, just bring in a new one. Just be on the safe side so there's no errors. Drag this around here. We want this to cover our level pretty much, so all of this place needs to be covered. Because we'll always get, no matter what game you make, you guys will always get those people who want to try and break the game somehow, and they always manage to do it. But obviously there's a good chance that your character will probably fall down a lot as you try to get him to move around. So just make sure there's a collision box that's covering all of it. If you guys aren't sure if it's covering enough area, just do this. This is our main thing. So I believe this collision box is covering most of my stuff. Then go to lit, and actually I'll actually select this trigger box. I'll name this full trigger, and I will make a new trigger box. So modes, drag out a new trigger volume. For some reason it only spawns it right there, and press F. And we want this around here, just to play collision again, so I know I'm in the right place. Yeah. Or make this smaller, make this just above the ground. Yep, and I'll call this respawn trigger. So our next mechanic is respawning our character if he falls down. So our character should respawn here as long as he falls down in this area. Okay. Now we'll go to our level blueprint, and we will gonna make this nicer. Alright, so right now we have our respawn trigger selected. So teleport. Right, but we don't want this to teleport. We want to, so our respawn trigger, we want to get location. So get actor location, which is wherever this actor is, which will be our destination location. And then we will select our, because we'll respawn, and the full trigger, we'll make a new folder. We'll call this full mechanic maybe. Alright, so full mechanic, and then I will select my, I'm not gonna minimize these so don't have that much extra stuff. Okay, full trigger. So right click on actor hit, I believe. On actor hit, teleport. The target is player character, I believe. So get player character. It's either player character or player controller. Alright, so if I am correct, this mechanic should be working now. If I click play, if I jump off, which I don't recommend anyone to do, because we just lost our poor teddy bear. Anyways, I'm gonna move my character closer to the fall. Click play. Oh, it's spawned right at the edge. There we go. There we go, guys. We have our mechanic working. Okay, so we jump on this. No matter where we go, if we fall off from this side, now we spawn back at the respawn place. There we go, guys. We have this working. So just an over thing. So we want an overlap for the full trigger. We want to get our player character and respawn him at this actor location, which is our collision box right here. So lit collision box right here. So this is our third mechanic, which is really useful. So you guys can set up different of these, which would serve as your checkpoints. So for example, if you wanted to make a checkpoint here, you guys can make a small collision box here, get the character spawn here if he falls around this area. If he has passed that area, he's reached the next checkpoint, which is here, then he would spawn here if he falls around any of this area. Alright, so this is our our third mechanic done. Again, select this, C, full mechanic. Yep, and next we will make a chest, and we will add a key to interact with that chest. Alright, so let's just close this for now, and we will move on to the next mechanic. Alright guys, so the next thing I will add down here is we'll go to our content browser. So we'll add a chest that's when we walk up to it, we can press F and the chest will open. So of course the actual sprites are inside the island adventure light, which you guys should have seen in the description of the video. So here we have two of the chests. So what we will do is we'll go to our content, make a new folder. I'll call this BP_chest. Double click to open this, right click, blueprint, actor class, and BP maybe chest I for interaction. Double click to open this. In here we'll add a paper sprite, and first one we'll call chest, so chest close, and we'll select this. In the source sprite we will get our coin case, I believe 1, nope, coin case 0 is the closed one. So coin case 0, I'll Control C, click on the default, Control V, and then coin case 1. And this is chest open, so not closed this time, chest open. Alright, and the last thing we need in here is a box, so just type box. So box collision, we can make this quite big to cover our chest. So when the character arrives in this area, we want the character to hit this box before he hits the chest, if that makes any sense. Alright, so after he hits this chest, we can compile this right now, and we can, so on actor begin overlap, event on actor begin overlap. What we will do is we will I'm supposed to select this, sorry, on overlap, on begin overlap, and then on end overlap. So event on begin overlap, once again I forgot to select this, sorry about that. So on end overlap, so begin overlap and end overlap, and the box is been overlapped. We'll do enable input first, so the character can use his key for the interaction. We'll get the player controller, so get player controller, connect this to the player controller I believe, and we will get the disable input, and then we'll connect this to the player controller. I'm just gonna double check in my other project to make sure this is right. Yeah, so player controller. Alright, so that project is just what I have already been working on. So, and then on F, so we'll press type F here. So when F is pressed, we want to set visibility for our chest close, and then set visibility for our chest open. This is the wrong one, so set visibility, chest open. Alright, so we want our chest open to start off not visible, so we'll uncheck this. And so when the key is pressed, when the player is inside the box and he presses the key, we want the new visibility for the chest close. Right now it's visible. We want it to be not visible, so we'll leave this unchecked. And the new visibility for the chest open, we want that to be visible. And then we'll compile this, and we will click, we're going to drag out our chest first into the scene. We can drag our chest around here, so as long as the collision box hits the thing is fine. Click play. Now when our character is in the sphere and he presses F, the chest can open. And if I click play again, so while I'm outside, if I press F, nothing happens. As soon as I hit the box and press F, the chest opens. Alright, so this is the chest mechanic, and I'll actually move this chest up here because we already have a function there. So alright, so this is our third mechanic. Now what we can do is we can actually have the chest spawn something when it opens. Alright, so for this we'll go back into our BP, so the chest blueprint, and we'll call this press C open, so open / close, and we can add a new paper sprite, or we'll actually add a paper flipbook, and we'll call this coin. Now the Island Adventure Pack does come with quite a few coins, I believe. If I can find them, maybe. Oh, I didn't import them, so never mind, not a coin. We'll just add another paper sprite. But you guys can get those from the Island Adventure Pack that you downloaded. You just need to migrate it, as I showed you guys earlier. And what I'll actually do is I'll go to my content browser, and I'll import an axe image. So obviously this I've also got from the open clip art, so you guys can go ahead and download as well. Right click on this, create sprite, X sprite, right? So in here, call this X. Yep. And down here we'll find our X sprite. Okay, so we'll make this quite small, and we'll make this spawn around here. Alright. And we'll set the visibility to not visible. Actually, just in here we'll drag another click on X to create a reference. So, or we can just control click and drag this out, and we can link this to our chest visible. Now if we compile, and I'm gonna drag my character close again up here, click play. So when we go in when we hit the box, we press F, it opens the box and it spawns an axe outside. Or what we can also do is go back to our chest, we can Control C, Control V, add a new one. And actually I'll take this out here. Connect the X here, and we can actually add a delay, so maybe a delay of about 1 second. So the axe will spawn after 1 second. I'll just quickly make this smaller, and I'll call this the new set. I'll call this axe. Alright. Now if we compile and play, when we arrive at the box, I will press F, it opens, and after 1 second it spawns the axe. Now we want to somehow make the axe disappear as well. So what I'll actually do for that is, so I'll select the axe, and so on overlap maybe, or on hit. So when the axe is hit, what we will do is we will set the new visibilities, Control C, Control V, of the axe to not visible. Let's see if we've had any success now. So we go to the box, we press F, axe spawns. Nope, not yet. I believe the axe needs to have some collision on it, so okay. So the issue right now is that the axe isn't actually being touched by the player, which is obviously causing it to not despawn. So what I'll do for that is I'll open my axe sprite. I'll so I'll go to the axe sprite. I'll select maybe about 200. Doesn't really matter right now. The collision tight bonding box. Yeah, that's fine. Save this. BP chest. So now when the axe is hit, this should happen. Let's see. Let's play. Let's move this out of the way. Press F. Axe spawns. Am I still not hitting the axe? Let's find out. So, quickly gonna go to my BP, turn the visibility of axe on. Go to collision, play collision. Okay, I'm clearly not hitting the axe, so maybe around here. Yeah, this should do. There, this works. Should be fine. And then now back inside the BP. Actually, why not just play here so I can show you guys. Of course, I haven't set the visibility back to not visible. Yeah, that's fine. And one more thing we'll do is we'll on overlap set collision. So set collision enabled, and we will disable the collision for the chest open and the chest close, so they will have no collision, so the player can seamlessly walk through them. Now if we click play, go up to the box. Of course, now the axe has an invisible collision. Press F, the axe spawns, we hit the axe and the axe disappears. And okay, let's go back to the BP. We also need to set the collision for axe. So, you know what, I'll just drag this axe node and plug this into no collision as well. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it seems to be working from one side, at least. Okay, I'll try and make the collision box a little bit bigger. So in viewport, I'll make this a little bigger. Play. Alright. Now we can walk through, press F, X spawns. But now since they have no collision, of course it doesn't despawn. But you guys get the basic idea of how these things can work. It's just playing around and getting them to work properly. So what I'll do now is I'll go to the event graph. Now I just need to work out a way so the axe actually despawns after the character walks over it. Maybe I can add a new collision box. So I'll make the axe visible again. Alright, visible. I'll add a new box collision. Yeah, and I'll make this collision surround the axe. So just the axe, that's it. Alright. So instead of on this hit. So on hit for box 1, and we will set the visibility to not visible. Alright, now we will compile this, and let me see, we need to go back to our X and set this to not visible again. Now when we click play, you can walk over it seamlessly. When you press F, the X ones. Nope, it's not working right now, and I believe the collision box should be working. So when on hits, let's try overlap instead. So box 1, overlap. Sorry, so on actor begin overlap. To set visibility. Right, so now if we click play, let's have a look. We go to the chest, open the chest, walk over the axe, and the axe has disappeared. Congratulations guys, we have finally accomplished our next task. Now I'll just move this around here, maybe go to lit mode so the chest looks nice, yeah. And then we can add a tree down here now, which will have full-on collision, so the player can't go through. Actually, I'll move this up and I'll make like a staircase here, just like my my example game that I showed you. Right, now for the staircase, I'll go to my Island Adventure Sprite Pack. Let me see if there's anything I can use from here. Yeah, I might just use some skirts. See the collision on this. Does this have yeah, this one should be just fine. Gonna go into player collision mode. I want to make sure it actually covers the area. So now we want our character to be able to jump up. So I'll make a few steps right here. Hold Alt and rotate 90 degrees. I'm gonna make this a little smaller because our character can't jump that high. Alright, and then Alt again. Or actually I'll Alt this up, so Alt on the Z axis, Alt left click on the Z axis and then drag this here. And I'll make this a little longer. And here's our chest, yep. That's absolutely fine. Good to go. Alright, let's see if our character can actually get up there though. No, I think it might be a little too high still. Oh, there we go. Actually working. That's fine. Yeah, so now the character needs to come up here, press F, collect the X, and then go down to chop a tree. Don't chop trees, guys. It's not good for us. Alright, okay, so now we've done this mechanic, and now we'll make a tree here, and then we'll set the input on that as well, alright?